Okay, welcome to Friday. Go ahead and get out your homework. All right, so we had lesson 11.5, 2 through 14 evens. Let's do this. Okay, so number two, the probability is 0.77, 0.77. Number four, the probability is 5/12. You're like, well, why are some of these decimals, some of these fractions? Well, the ones that are fractions, it's just easier to leave as fractions. Ones that are decimal, it's easier to leave as decimals. Number six is, well, there's an A, B, and C. So A is 1/6, B is 1/3, and C is 1/2. Number eight, just an A and a B. A is 1/2, and B is 1/2. Number 10, there's an A, B, C. A is 1/2, B is 1/6, and C is 2/3. Number 12 is an A, B, and C. 12A is 1/5, B is 2/5, and C is 3/5. And there you go. Oh, wait, we had 14, sorry. 14, A is 1/4, B is 1/5, and C is 9/20. 9/20. There you go. Count up how many you got wrong and answer question one on the Google Forms. All right, guys, we made it. End of the year. This is the last class of the year. The only thing left is after today's class would be to review for the semester final and then take your semester final. So there is the calendar right there. Remember, I'm going to review. Only we're doing next week is review. So we'll take everything we learned from January until now. I'll break it up into two parts. I will give you a copy of the test. It'll look just like the test review. It will be multiple choice. So your job is to understand all the material from January until now, look at the questions that I'm going to ask, and make sure you understand it. We got plenty of time. It's basically almost 2 weeks between when we start the review and when you have to take your course 2 math final on Thursday of that last week there. You see it after Memorial Day, Thursday. That's when you'll take your course 2 math final. It'll only be one test that day, just your math. It'll be multiple choice. I'm going to make it somewhere around about an hour to an hour and a half length test. For those of you that are really quick, maybe it'll be a 50-minute test. For those of you that usually take most of the time during a class period, it'll probably be closer to hour to an hour and a half for you. All right. If you have any questions on the final schedule, please let me know. I guess one last word: how do you prepare for it? Well, remember, I'm going to give you reviews on Monday and Wednesday. That will be literally the test. It won't be as lengthy as the reviews. But I'm not going to, haha. Here's a quick question I didn't prepare you for, that sort of thing. I'm showing you all my cards. So the practice test will be the actual test. Just numbers will be changed, obviously. So that would be your primary source for studying. Obviously, if you have a science final on that Tuesday, yeah, you should probably do the majority of your studying on that Monday, Memorial Day, or Sunday, Saturday, whenever you're doing it for the science final. However, I would recommend that you at least look over all your other test materials, for all your classes, including math, briefly, just so it's fresh in your mind. You don't want to, do all of your studying for that one test, a couple hours right before the test. Okay, and you will have the entire day to do the test. Even though it'll be about an hour and a half length test, you have until 8 p.m. of each night to take the test. So on the morning of those tests, your student advisement teacher will send you two links, one for attendance and then one your test final. And then it's up to you when you take the test. It just has to be done by 8 p.m. on that day. All right. Here's your homework for tonight. Last of the day. We made it. Okay, so let's see. Last class, we did something called mutually exclusive events. That was a game where it was one game and you had one turn and you had two events that could not happen at the same time. Well, the opposite of that is called an overlapping event, and that's what we will do today. So we're going to be calculating the probability of an overlapping event. Quick review. Remember, we're doing probability. Here's a game, the spinner game. Probability is the chance of things occurring. So the probability of getting a 1, right? That's just one event. Probability of getting a 1 would be 1 out of 8 possibilities, or 1/8, right? Mutually exclusive are two or more events that cannot happen at the same time. For instance, the probability of getting yellow or a 1. You can't both be yellow and 1 at the same time in one turn. Right? If you had 2 turns, one turn could be yellow, one turn could be the 1. But in one turn here, if you spun the spinner, you couldn't both be yellow and 1. So these are called mutually exclusive. So let's see. The formula was for mutually exclusive, the probability of yellow plus the probability of 1. Well, yellow is 2/8. 1 is 1/8. 2/8 plus 1/8 is 3/8. So that's what you had the last class for homework. So today we're going to be doing 2 or more events. It will only ever be 2 events this year. 2 or more events that can happen at the same time. For instance, what's the probability that you're yellow or that you're the number 2? Well, 2 is both yellow and it's the number 2. So these are events that could happen in one turn. They could happen at the same time. So our goal today is to figure out that probability. It will be a different formula. In general, just so you know, right, there's 2 types of events. There are what are called mutually exclusive events. That's what we did the previous time. Those are events that can't happen together. And then we're going to call the other ones, the opposite. We're going to call those overlapping events. So overlapping events are events that can happen together. I shouldn't say can, that happen together. It's not that they could or have the possibility. They will happen together. Overlapping events are events that happen together. Sometimes mutually exclusive events are also called non-overlapping events. So make sure you're comfortable with both of that. So we got 2 types, mutually exclusive and overlapping. And just remember what I just said. Mutually exclusive occasionally are called non-overlapping events. I like mutually exclusive and overlapping. And that's what our book uses, by the way. All right, once again, we're going to restrict ourselves for at least this homework, this day, this class period for 1 game, 1 turn. As you get into higher level statistics in high school, for seniors, we will offer a statistics class instead of taking pre-calc if you're not on the calculus path. It'll be one of the offerings we offer in statistic in that level class. We might do 2 or more games or in 2 or more turns. How do you calculate that probability? But for starters, like where we're at right now, we're just doing 1 game, 1 turn. 1 game, 1 turn. So let's play the spinner game a couple times. All right, what's the probability of a 1 or a... All right, for tonight for homework, I'm going to pause this for a second and quickly look forward. Yeah, so tonight for homework, we're going to be doing overlapping events, but I do want to show you the formula again for mutually exclusive. So the formula for mutually exclusive looks like this. It's a little complicated, right? The probability of A or B, these are 2 events that cannot happen at the same time, is the probability of A plus the probability of B. All right, do not panic when I show you the overlapping formula. It looks way more complicated than it is. All right, so write this down in blue for overlapping events. These are events that happen at the same time together. That's the probability of A or B is equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B. Hey, that's the same thing as the previous one, but we're going to subtract something. We're going to subtract the overlap, right? Because if you count the overlap twice, then the probability is incorrect. So that subtraction there is subtracting the overlap. Well, what's the overlap? The overlap is what does A and B share in common? What probability does A and B share in common? That's what the subtraction there is for. Now, like I said, don't panic right now. We haven't done an example. It definitely sounds complicated. It's not. It's pretty simple. But, right, there's always a but, you have to be able to tell the difference between an overlapping and a non-overlapping event, right? So you have to be able to tell the difference between a mutually exclusive, right, and an overlapping event. And then you got to use the right formula. But remember, you can always use a resource card. So memorizing the formula isn't the issue. It's understanding the formula. So make sure you understand both formulas for both mutually exclusive and overlapping, or non-overlapping and overlapping. Remember, non-overlapping is mutually exclusive. Okay, quick note. If you look at those 2 formulas that you just wrote down, some of them have or, well, both of them have ors, and one of them has an and there's a difference between the or for mutually exclusive and the or and the and for overlapping, right? So just briefly, I'll just give you that explanation. Okay, so for us, we're going to be dealing with this or and the and. Now, the or appears in both the mutually exclusive and the overlapping. The and only appears in the overlapping one. Okay, so we're going to have to figure out what we do with this and thing. So I'm going to show you a couple quick examples here. We'll do a mutually exclusive one first, just to warm up. So this one's mutually exclusive. How do I know this one's mutually exclusive or non-overlapping? Well, remember, the definition of mutually exclusive are events that cannot happen at the same time. So can you get a 1 and a 6 at the same time in one turn? Well, the answer is no. If the answer is it cannot happen in one turn, it's mutually exclusive or non-overlapping. Therefore, we use this formula. This is the formula that doesn't have the word and in it. All right, so let's see. Probability of A plus probability of B. Well, we have two events there, 1 or 6. So that'd be the probability of 1 plus the probability of 6. Well, how many 1s are there? 1. How many 6s are there? 1. How many numbers are there? 8. So probability of 1 is 1/8. Probability of 6 is 1/8, and those two added together, 2/8 or 1/4. Okay? So 25% chance of getting a 1 or a 6 on that game. All right. Let's look at an overlapping event. An overlapping event. Remember, these would be events that can happen at the same time. This one says the probability of 1 or purple. Well, if you get a 1, you are also purple. So in one turn, you could meet both of those requirements to be purple or to be a 1. So this is an overlapping event, not a mutually exclusive. This is an overlapping event. So this is the formula that has both the or and the and in it. Okay, so take a deep breath, don't panic. So I'm going to show you, this one actually is fairly easy. So here's the formula with the events written inside. All right, let's just go from left to right. All right, so the probability of 1, okay, that's pretty simple. We did that on the previous one. That's what, 1/8? What's the probability of being purple? Well, how many purple numbers are there? There's 2, 2 out of 8, right? And then it says subtract the 1 and the purple. Remember, the subtraction part is going to be to subtract the overlap. It gets rid of the what you would, if you didn't do this, you would be counting something twice. So this is subtracting the overlap. So how many things are both 1 and purple? How many things are both 1? You can't be just 1, you can't be just purple. How many things are both 1 and purple? Well, there's only one of them. Literally, the number 1 is both 1 and purple. There is no other, and the other number that's purple is 8, and 8 is not 1. So how many things are both 1 and purple? 1. So 1 out of 8. So that's your subtraction. You're subtracting what would have typically have been counted twice. All right, well, let's just do the math. Hey, we got common denominator. Life is good. 1 plus 2 is 3. Minus 1 is 2. So 2, 8. It's 1/4 again. Same probability, 25%. Okay, but this one was an overlapping one. Let's do some more. All right, how about even or blue? Even or blue? Mutually exclusive or overlapping? Can you be both even and blue at the same time? The answer is yes, so therefore it's overlapping. Remember, if the answer is no, you can't happen at the same time, then it's mutually exclusive. It's just the probability of A plus the probability of B. But for the overlapping one, not only is it A plus B, then you subtract what they have, what they share in common, right? You're getting rid of the overlap. All right, so this step right here, although I'm showing you, I don't typically see too many students do this. They basically take that first statement there, probability even or blue. They look at the formula there in blue, and they just plug in the numbers, okay? For our purposes, this works pretty good because we can do this from left to right and be meticulous about it. Okay, so what's the probability that you're even? That's the first thing. You see where I'm there? Probability of even? What's the probability of even? Well, how many even numbers are there? 2, 4, 6, 8. There's 4 of them. So 4 out of 8. Plus, what's the probability of blue? Well, how many blue numbers are there? Well, there's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 of them. Now we're going to subtract the overlap. How many numbers are both even and blue? Even and blue. Well, there's 4 and 6. There's 2 of them, so 2 out of 8. We're subtracting the overlap. Okay. Once again, woo, look at us. We got common denominator. Life is good. So let's just go from left to right with the numerators. 4 plus 3 is 7. Minus 2 is 5, 5/8. That wasn't too bad. Remember I said the formula looks really ugly, but this isn't too bad. All right, one more. Probability of odd or 8. Mutually exclusive or overlapping? Could you get both of those in one spin? Could you be both odd and an 8? No, you can't, right? That is a mutually exclusive. Now, I keep saying this word non-overlapping. I understand it can be confused with overlapping, right? So just be careful. So this is a mutually exclusive or non. So that's just A plus B, right? So the probability of odd plus the probability of 8. How many odd numbers? 1, 3, 5, 7. There's 4 of those. How many numbers are 8? 1. So 4 8s plus 1 8, 5 8s. Okay. And this is the one that we did for homework. We better do an overlapping one. All right. Go ahead and pause. I don't have this on the Google Forms, but go ahead and pause this. See if you can get this one, and then play the video and see if you got it right. All right, a probability that you're odd and red, odd and red. Hey, you could be both odd and red at exactly the same time, right? So this one is an overlapping event. Okay, so we plug in those conditions, right? The events, probability of odd and probability of red, and we simply do the math, left to right. What's the probability that you're odd? Let's see, that's a 1, 3, 5, and 7. That's 4 of those. What's the probability that you're red? Well, there's one of those. And now we got to subtract the overlap. How many numbers are both odd and red? Odd and red. Well, there's only one of them, right? So we subtract a 1/8. Hey, common denominator. Well, how come I keep saying that? Because eventually we won't have common denominators. All right, let's see. 4 plus 1 is 5, minus 1 is back to 4, 4/8 or half, 50%. So 50% chance of being odd or red, odd or red. Okay, you guys are doing well. How about a weird looking one? What does that even mean? Well, if you have challenges with these, just read it slowly, think about it. So the probability, that's the P, of less than 6 or blue. That's what that means. Less than 6 or blue. Could you be both blue and less than 6? Well, 5 is less than 6 and 5 is blue, so the answer is yes. So these are overlapping events. These are overlapping events. Do you see that? All right. Well, let's do the math here. So there's your overlapping formula. There are the events thrown in there. Like I said, this is typically the step no one does. All right, let's do it. How many numbers are less than 6? Well, if you're less than 6, it doesn't say less than or equal to, it says less than. So you don't count 6. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's 5 numbers there. So 5 out of, what, 8? Okay. Probability of blue? 1, 2, 3 of those. And now we get rid of the overlap. How many numbers are both smaller than 6 and blue? Well, that would be 5 and 4. That would be 2 of those. So we're going to subtract those. Once again, we still have common denominators. Life is good. All right. 5 plus 3 is 8. Minus 2 is 6. 6/8, which reduces 3, 4. Hey, 75% chance of being less than 6 or blue. Got it? Yeah, good job. All right. Quick note, just remember or and. Remember for mutually exclusive, it's just strictly or, but the and is included for the overlapping events there. There's certainly, I mean, generally I start with easier ones. I like to start with that spinner because it makes a whole lot of sense. Tonight for homework, they're going to give you some ridiculously easy ones. And by that, and it's the first, and I think 1 through 6, they basically almost give you the answers. And this is an example. They're going to give you this. They're going to tell you that this is an overlapping event, right? It's an overlapping event. All of them will be an overlapping event. And you're to calculate the probability of this. Well, don't overthink this. It's going to literally be this easy, right? The probability of A or B is the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A and B. Hey, look, they've already done the math for me. All I have to do is give their results and plug them into the formula, right? The formula says probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A and B. Look, they've given me all 3 of those. So it's just plugging those numbers into the formula. I mean, I don't know why I wrote that again. I didn't have to, right? So the probability of A is, well, it tells me it's 0.25. The probability of B is 0.1, and it tells me to add. And then it tells me to subtract the probability of A and B. Well, it tells me the probability of A and B is 0.05. Do you see where I'm getting those numbers from? Well, now you just do the math, right? I'm going to not bore you with the math, but when you do 0.25 plus 0.1 minus 0.05, you get to a number, and that's your answer. 3/10, so 30% chance. Okay, one more of these easy ones. Check it out. They've already given me all the information. They're telling me it's overlapping. So all I have to do is throw those values into the formula. Right? It's like you're given a game, you don't have to calculate the probability. It's already been done for you. All right, the probability of A was 0.5. You see where I got the 0.5 from? That's the probability of A. It tells me that. Probability of B, remember we're adding here, is 0.35, and then minus probability of A and B, we're told that's 0.1. All right, well, I mean, you can do this one in your head. 0.5 plus 0.35 is what? 0.85 Minus 0.1 would be 0.75. Yeah, it was that easy. All right, the last one will just, I mean, it still is easy. I mean, it's one of these easy ones. It just has uglier numbers. Oh, fractions. Don't panic. Just do what it says. It's the same as the previous one. It's going to be an overlapping. It tells us it's overlapping. The instructions say it's overlapping. So all we have to do is plug those values into the formula. Well, probability of A was 3/4. It tells me, I'm sorry, 3/8, not 3/4. Probability of B is the 3/4, and the probability of A and B is 1/4. So notice now I don't have common denominators. So let's get common denominators. What's the common denominator? Let's write an 8. So that middle 3/4 would turn to, multiply the numerator and denominator by 2, would turn into what? 6/8. And that last one, the minus 1/4, multiply top and bottom by 2, that would turn into what? Negative 2/8. Now we've got common denominators. Let's do the math. 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 minus 2 is 7, so we get 7/8. Woohoo, done. Drum roll, please. That is the end of the year for new material. Good job. It's been a pleasure teaching you guys. You guys came a long way from when we started. Remember when we started, not very few of you could solve an equation. Now you guys are experts at that. How many of you couldn't add, subtract, multiply, and divide positive and negative numbers? Now you guys can do that. I've been very happy with your progress this year. Thank you for being good students, and I look forward to teaching you more math next year. Hey, I'll leave you one last word. Do your homework. See you guys.